It's gonna be kind of trouty in here today. Hey, I'm Ben. I'm a huge fly fisherman. I also consider myself a dry fly fisherman. I'm not a purist. You've seen me get dirty plenty of times. I even have a Tenkara video. But when it comes to trout fishing, for me, dry flies are and for me, one kind of dry fly fishing beats everything else. Grasshoppers. In this video, I'm gonna tell you why hoppers are so dang cool, how I like to fish them, and I'll give you some specific fly patterns that I like to use in different situations. Have you heard of the 20-20 club? That's when you catch a 20-inch trout on a size 20 fly. That's cool, I guess, if you're a nerd, but a 20-inch trout on a size 2 fly is way cooler. It's much harder to get a trout to eat a really big fly than a small one. I like that challenge. And with a big fly, I can fish bigger tippets and pull harder on the fish, which is how I like to do it. Hopper fishing is visual. You get to watch the fish eat your fly. I like that. Sometimes the takes are quick and splashy. Sometimes the fish will float under your fly and examine it and test your self-control. But the best ones are the slow, confident eats. Let's talk now about how I like to fish grasshoppers. The first and most important thing we should cover is fishing banks. I've talked about fishing banks a few times, but we'll go into more depth right now. For me, the absolute coolest thing that I can do with a fly rod is drift a hopper this close to a grassy bank and pull a big brown trout out from under it. That is the pinnacle of fly fishing in my world. But there's more to it than just throwing your fly at the grass, so let's break it down. If there is any depth to the water where it meets the grass, even if it's like 3 inches deep, I want to get that fly as close as possible to the grass, like touching it. A few inches off the grass is acceptable. A foot off, or God forbid you cast your fly 2 feet away from the grass and you're out of the game. Just pick it up and cast again. The fish are literally behind the grass, underneath the bank, and they aren't gonna move far for your bug. Make it easy for them. Put it on the grass, not this far away. Okay, you get that. Now, when I'm throwing my fly at the bank, I'm not just throwing it anywhere. I'm throwing it at something specific, some kind of feature. Often that feature is a shadow. If I see a grassy bank with a sliver of shadow on the water, my pants are getting tight, and I don't mean from my beer belly. If there's a shadow on the bank, that is where the fish are, and they will be more willing to eat because they're protected by that shadow. Put your fly there. If there's no shadow, I'm gonna find another target. Something that stands out, something different. If you have a grassy bank that's like 100 feet long and there's one rock on it or one little group of rocks, that is going to be a hot spot for me. There's a fish on that rock. Put your fly there. If there are no features to cast at and it's all just grass, look at that grass a little harder. There will be little bumps where it sticks out more. That's where the fish are. The bank isn't perfectly straight. It goes in and out. The best scenario for me is when there's a little bump out in the bank and I can float my fly right into the upstream side of it. That seems to be a very consistent type of spot where I'll get an eat. Drift your fly right into that little lump of grass and you'll get bit. One thing I need to say about fishing banks like this is that there has to be some current, even if it's just a little bit. If there's no current at all, the fish will not be there and you'll have to put your fly further out into the river or on another part of the bank that has moving water. A good example of that is the color change. That's a slight depth change, usually a few feet off the bank where the water gets a little darker. If the bank doesn't have good cover, you can fish the color change. Also, if the bank that you want to fish has been disturbed, the fish won't be there. I don't mean disturbed like the boat in front of you has also fished it. I mean like somebody walked up and down it. The big fish that were holding tight will be gone. They got scared and went somewhere else and they won't be back for a long time. Find another bank to fish. I tend to not worry too much about other boats in front of me fishing the same bank because I'm confident that they are not getting the fly as tight as I am. Also, I need to point out that all this stuff about fishing banks isn't just for hoppers, it's for fishing banks in general. Terrestrials, caddis, whatever, this all still applies. Okay, that's a whole lot about fishing banks, but there are other places I like to fish grasshoppers. A big one is riffles. In riffles, the trout have to act fast. They see a big meal coming at them and they have to grab it quickly before it's gone. For hopper fishing, I like a riffle that's less than a foot deep. The broken surface of the water is cover for the fish, so they'll hold shallow even in bright sun. In water that's a foot deep or less, the fish doesn't have to move far to eat your fly. Just a quick little move and they can grab it as it's floating by. Just like fishing banks, if there's anything in that riffle that stands out, cast at it. Maybe it's one rock that's bigger than the others. Maybe it's just a little spot in the riffle that's a few inches deeper than everywhere else. That is where the fish is going to be. Put your fly there. Other places I like to fish in riffles are at the very top and the very bottom. If you have a nice flat tail out at the bottom of a run that goes into a shallow riffle, that's a money spot. Right where that riffle starts, especially on the edges, not in the middle. Put your fly in that little corner where the riffle begins. Also, I like the bottom of a riffle, especially if there's a ledge or drop off into the next run. If you have that abrupt depth change, that's where the fish will be. They'll stick their nose right on the edge or even get up onto the shelf in real shallow water. That's the hopper water, not the deeper water below the drop off. Okay, we've talked about banks, we've talked about riffles, but don't ignore the middle of the river. I think it's a little lower percentage and it's not as much fun, but you can certainly get a hopper bite in deep water in the middle of the river. If there's nothing real attractive for me to throw at anywhere else, I'll just lob it out into the middle and hope for the best. Okay, before we move on to fly patterns, I want to talk about how you fish your fly. Like, what do you do with it besides just let it float? Here's the thing. If you get a refusal on a hopper, leave it. Don't pick it up. A lot of times that fish will come back for another look and eat your fly on the second pass. It can be hard to just leave the fly there after a refusal, but I'm telling you, they will come back and eat it. Doesn't always work, but sometimes it does. I swear it's like they're testing us. Like if the fly doesn't get immediately ripped off the water after they deny it, then they think it's a real bug. I'm probably overthinking it, but I swear that's what's going through their tiny little brain. Another thing you can do if you get a refusal or if you know a fish is there and he's not eating the fly is twitch it. Just some little jiggles or twitches will sometimes trigger them into eating that hopper. If you watch a real grasshopper on the water, they kick their legs a lot. Twitching the fly isn't my go-to, it's more of a backup. All right, now let's talk about specific fly patterns and why I choose them. First, the Schroeder's Parachute Hopper. This is a low profile fly, kind of sparse, not a whole lot of stuff going on. This is a great fly for spooky fish. It's good for water that's flat and not riffly. It's a good fly for wade fishing or sight fishing when you aren't casting a whole lot. If you're fishing a Schroeder's hopper from a boat and casting over and over, it's gonna get soaked and it won't float anymore. It's not a great searching pattern. I use it when I know exactly where the fish is. You can also use this approach with other low profile hoppers too, not just the Schroeder's. On the other end of the spectrum, I fish a foam PMX hopper a lot. It's bushy and kind of audacious. Lots going on with this fly. A foam PMX is gonna float high in riffles so you can see it, and it's gonna float for a long time. It's a good searching pattern and it's a good boat pattern when I'm casting over and over again. There are tons of fly patterns that are similar to the two that I've mentioned here. I just think it's useful to sort of categorize them into low profile hoppers and big bushy ones and fish them accordingly. So that's gonna do it for this video. I hope you learned something about the coolest way to catch a trout. Thank you for watching another one of my huge fly fisherman videos. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, just like there's no streamer season, there really is no such thing as hopper season. And stay huge. Let's talk about the evolution of the foam PMX for a minute, just because I think it's interesting. I guess the original fly would have been the Madam X. It's a hopper caddis fly, probably one of the first flies that had rubber legs. Starting with the Madam X, somebody came up with the Parachute Madam X, PMX. Another really good, just general attractor pattern. I fish the caddis sizes a lot, but they also have hopper sizes. So then from the PMX, it became the foam PMX, just a big chunk of foam on the body with the parachute and hackle and legs and stuff. And boy, I fish that one a lot. I fish it in black too for crickets. Anyway, I just think that's interesting, sort of the evolution of that fly. All right, that's it.